Number 10, Matthew Charles Kraft. 24-year-old Matthew Charles Kraft will always be remembered by those who knew him and loved him as a kind and caring young man. In 2019, Matthew was an infantry Marine and platoon leader with the 1st Battalion, 7th Marines at Camp Pendleton in California, and he was well liked and respected among his platoon. In February 2019, Matthew took leave from the Marines to complete a 2-week backpacking holiday, which would take him along the High Sierra route. According to sources, the route parallels the John Muir Trail, with elevations ranging from 9,000 to 11,500 feet. Matthew had planned to complete the 200-mile hike over 10 days before returning to Bridgeport, California, where he and his group would be deployed to Afghanistan. Unfortunately, Matthew never made it back to base as planned, and the mystery of his disappearance began on February 24, 2019. On that day, Matthew started his 10-day-long journey and had planned to be back by March 4th or 5th. The Orange County Register reports that on February 22nd, Matthew spoke to his father, Greg, for what would be the last time. Greg reported that Matthew was in good spirits, and the two went over Matthew's plans, which included his arrival date on March 4th or 5th. When March 5th rolled around, Matthew's parents and his Marine buddies became concerned that they had not heard from him. But the next day, when Matthew had still not made contact with him, everyone knew something was wrong, and the search for him began in earnest. The search for Matthew was a multi-agency approach with the Mono County Sheriff's Office, the Inyo County Sheriff's Office, the Fresno County Sheriff's Office, and the Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Unit all joining the investigation. On March 8, 2019, the gray Jeep Wrangler that Matthew had been renting was discovered near Grays Meadows Campground above Independence, and reports indicate that there was evidence of an avalanche in the area. According to the Orange County Register, the search and rescue effort by Marines from the Mountain Warfare Training Center in Bridgeport and 13 agencies covered an area larger than the state of Rhode Island. Helicopters and ground crews were sent out along the High Sierra route, which runs through parts of the Sequoia and Kings National Parks, along with other wilderness areas. However, no sign of Matthew was found. Heat signals were captured by one of the helicopters. However, this was later discovered to be a hibernating bear. Adverse weather conditions hampered the efforts of search and rescue crews, and heavy snowfall forced the group to suspend their efforts until it was safe to proceed. Despite this huge multi-agency approach, no sign of Matthew has ever been found, and it is believed that he perished while out on the trail. In the wake of his disappearance, the Marine Corps posthumously promoted him to the rank of captain. A memorial service was held for Matthew, with the Marine Corps writing that Matthew Kraft passed away after being overcome by severe winter storms. No sign of Matthew has ever been found, and his family are desperate to find his body and get closure. Anyone with any information is asked to contact the Mono County Coroner at 760-932-7549 and reference case number 19-86. Number 9, Alois Jacob Crost. In 2013, Alois Jacob Crost arrived in the United States to attend a conference, and while he was in the country, he decided to go on a few hikes. Alois worked as a professor at the University of Magdeburg in Germany and was well liked and respected among his colleagues. On August 1, 2013, he headed out to the San Bernardino Mountains in California with a hiking group. The plan was for the group to hike the Pinnacle Trail in the Lake Arrowhead area. However, at around 5:45 p.m., Alois became separated from the group. According to reports, Alois was an experienced hiker. However, at the time of his disappearance, he was not carrying any hiking equipment. He was also proficient in hunting, but without the right equipment, the group knew that he would not survive for long. When his absence was noted, the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office was notified and began their extensive search for Alois. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office, search and rescue groups, and volunteers scoured the San Bernardino Mountains for Alois, but ultimately no sign of him was ever found. Since October 2013, Alois' case has sat cold, and his family and friends in Germany are desperate for answers. Alois is described as a white male with brown hair, blue eyes, around 5 foot 10 inches tall, and 185 pounds. He speaks fluent English and German and was last seen wearing a long-sleeved light blue button-down shirt, dark blue jeans, and lightweight hiking shoes. The Charlie Project notes that his name may be spelled Alois or Alyof. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Detective Scott Tees of the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Office at 909-336-0600 and reference case number 051-301-914. Number 8. Vernon Cody Matthews. In June 2014, 23-year-old Vernon Cody Matthews, who went by Cody, was excited to stay at his family's cabin in the lower Sierra Nevada mountains in California. At the time, Cody was an anthropology student, and he was looking forward to spending the summer living off the land and putting to use the techniques he had learned during his studies. In early June 2014, Cody headed down to his family's summer cabin to get a head start on his parents. The agreement was that in a few days, they would join him and they would enjoy their vacation together. However, when his parents, Vern and Cindy, arrived at the cabin, they found it empty. Not only was there no sign of their son, but the cabin had been completely ransacked and around $18,000 worth of items had been stolen. Cody had called them within the first days of his arrival to let them know that the cabin had been broken into and that he planned to secure it in anticipation of their arrival. The MT Democrat reported that a large saw, only capable of being moved by more than one person, was sitting in the driveway. A camera meant to catch wildlife, set up in the front driveway area, was missing. Another security camera's line had been cut. The side of the house had been forcibly opened by bending the locking bar and destroying the door frame. Vern and Cindy knew that something was very wrong. Their cabin had been broken into and ransacked, and now there was no sign of their son. They contacted the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office to report both incidents, and during the initial investigation, the Sheriff's Office did not believe that the two incidents were connected. With Cody now missing, the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office launched a missing person investigation, and it's been reported that Cody was last seen on June 6, 2014. The Charlie Project reports that on that day, Cody left the family cabin to go on a hike, leaving behind most of his personal belongings. Cody had called his mother beforehand to let her know he was going on that short hike and that he would call her later, but sadly, that call never came. Cody only intended to go for a short hike, and as such, the only things he took with him was a water bottle, a hunting knife, a compass, a bag of trail mix, and his phone. Investigators did manage to track Cody's phone, and it last pinged at around 6:30 p.m. that night around the South Fork of the American River. The Democrat later reported that the ping showed him going back in the direction of the cabin before ending in the water. But there's no evidence Cody is in the river or on the banks. Footsteps were found leading out of the river, which were thought to likely be Cody's. Search and rescue teams, volunteers, and the El Dorado Sheriff's Office continued to search the American River and the area around the cabin for 8 days until the search was finally called off. Despite the sheer amount of ground that was covered, no sign of Cody was ever found. Cody's parents noted that he was an experienced hiker and also loved to kayak and canoe, although there is no evidence that Cody went into the river. Just 2 months after Cody's disappearance, the family's cabin burned down during a wildfire that ravaged the area. The perpetrator of the fire was arrested and charged, but investigators do not believe that the fire is linked to Cody's disappearance. Since 2014, Vern and Cindy have been at the forefront of the search for their son, with Vern quitting his job in order to dedicate himself to the investigation full-time. In a 2014 interview, Vern told the Democrat, with his skills and knowledge of the backcountry, the chance of him not being able to thrive is slim. Vernon Cody Matthews is still missing, and his family needs your help. Cody is described as a white male with blonde hair, a reddish beard, blue eyes, standing 6 foot 3 inches tall and weighing 220 pounds. He has a slight scar on the left side of his nostril and was last seen wearing shorts, no t-shirt, and toe shoes or barefoot-style shoes that leave a footprint. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact the El Dorado County Sheriff's Office at 530-621-6600 and reference case number 14-052327. Number 7. Terry J. Metter. On October 19, 2018, Terry Metter headed out on a solo hiking trip in Rock Springs, Wyoming, and has never been seen or heard from again. There are scant few details in Terry's case, and it has been reported that Terry had previously been hospitalized for psychiatric intervention but was taking medication for the bipolar disorder he suffered and was stable at the time of his disappearance. Terry was known to go off into the wilderness alone to hike and hunt, but when he failed to return home or make contact by October 25, 2018, his family reported him missing. Shortly after he was reported missing, his 2013 Chevrolet pickup truck was found abandoned on an access road 2 3/4 miles from the summit of Pine Mountain in Sweetwater County, Wyoming. According to the Cowboy State Daily, it was found high-centered in a large rut with Terry's rifle, binoculars, hunting license, and a small cooler containing a couple of bottles of water and a can of soda, along with some other snacks still inside. The driver's window was found rolled down to allow Terry to presumably climb out of the vehicle, given the steep angle of the truck. The Cowboy State Daily also wrote that dried mud inside the vehicle and on a shovel tossed in the back of the truck indicated that Terry had attempted and failed to dig his truck out of the rut. Investigators found footprints leading away from the truck and onto an access road. However, these prints mysteriously stopped. A half-smoked cigarette was also found, with Terry's son confirming that it was the brand that his father smoked. It appears that DNA testing was performed on the cigarette. However, the results came back inconclusive. A wide-scale search showed no clues, and on November 14, 2018, the search was officially called off. The Sweetwater County Search and Rescue, Tip Top Search and Rescue, the University of Utah Air Med, dog units, volunteers, and the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office all turned out to help in the search for Terry, but no sign of him has ever been found. His family do not believe that he left of his own volition and assured investigators that he was stable at the time of his disappearance. Terry had previously confided in friends that he would like his life to end on his terms and that he would like to do it alone, but there were no indications that Terry wanted to take his own life at the time of his disappearance. His family are still desperately seeking answers and are appealing to anyone with information to please come forward. Terry J. Metter is described as a white male with gray hair, blue eyes, standing 5 foot 10 inches tall and weighing 180 pounds. Terry requires medication for his bipolar disorder, and he's previously been hospitalized as a result of this condition. Terry is known to smoke cigarettes and was last seen wearing an orange jacket. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact Detective Matthew Wharton of the Sweetwater County Sheriff's Office at 307-922-5300 and reference case numbers S18-18538 and R18-32089. Number 6. Ralph Allen Nukem. On April 17, 1989, Ralph Nukem kissed his wife goodbye as she headed out the door of their Seattle, Washington home. She had no idea this would be the last time she would ever see or hear from her husband, and when she returned home later that night, he was gone. There are very few details available in Ralph's case, but what we do know is that in 1988, he moved from Kodiak, Alaska to Seattle, Washington to set up his business. In Alaska, Ralph worked as a carpenter and somewhat of a house flipper, and had also attended college in Alaska. After realizing that her husband had disappeared, Ms. Nukem reported him missing to the King County Sheriff's Office, and on April 18, 1989, Ralph's red and white Ford 300 Series truck, Washington plate A69514, was found abandoned across the road from the Alaska Ferry Terminal in Seattle. Inside the truck were his tools, wallet, and ID. According to the Charlie Project, Ralph had left both his glasses and contact lenses at home, along with an uncashed check. Since April of 1989, Ralph has never made contact with his family or friends, and they are desperate to find out what happened to him. Many believe that Ralph simply walked away and started a new life, and according to the Charlie Project, there are indications that Ralph was in Wyoming and Montana after his disappearance. Ralph also has connections to Missouri, and that is where he grew up, and Illinois as he attended Southern Illinois University. His wife, family, and friends are desperate to hear from him or hear any news as to what happened to him all those years ago. Ralph is described as a white male with brown hair, a full beard, blue eyes. He stands 5 foot 11 inches tall and weighs 170 pounds. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Detective Jim Allen of the King County Sheriff's Office at 206-296-4155 and reference case number 89-096850. Number 5. Charles Edwin Palmer. In June 1999, the Palmer family were blindsided by tragedy when their 15-year-old son, Michael, mysteriously disappeared after attending a graduation party near Meadow Lake in Wasilla, Alaska. The disappearance of Michael hit the family hard, including his older brother, Charles Chucky Palmer. The family did the best they could to find Michael, but then they had to move on without him. Just 11 years after Michael Palmer disappeared, the Palmer family would find themselves facing a similar scenario when Chucky also disappeared. Since then, the Palmer family have been fighting for justice and answers for their 2 beloved sons. Chucky was one of 5 children, with his older brother Chris and younger brother Michael, who was also the youngest child. By 2010, Chucky was a father himself to 3 children and was working towards securing a bright future for them. April 10th of 2010, though, would be the day that the lives of the Palmers would be turned upside down yet again. On April 10th, Chucky, Chris, their stepfather, and 2 friends headed out to the Talkeetna Mountains. The group of fellows had planned to ride their snowmobiles through the thick blankets of snow that had fallen and also do some camping and hunting. The boys' trip was the perfect break for Chucky, and he was looking forward to being out in nature once more. The men piled into a cabin near Sheep Creek and began their snowmobiling adventures. Unfortunately, just hours into the trip, the handlebar on Chucky's snowmobile snapped, which forced him to use a different one. This change of equipment didn't spoil their fun, and after acquainting himself with a new snowmobile, the group quickly rode off into the distance. Chucky was seen by the group for the last time at 7:15 p.m. According to those with him that day, he was at the back of the group and took a wrong turn, which separated him from the rest. When they realized that Chucky was missing, it was already too late, and he had driven off along the wrong track on his snowmobile. The group hoped that Chucky would find his way back to the cabin, but as the morning sun rose and there was still no sign of him, they called the Alaska State Troopers and reported him missing. The Palmers now had 2 members of their family who had disappeared into the wilderness. A search was coordinated by the Alaska State Troopers and local search and rescue teams, and shortly after Chucky was reported missing, the Alaska State Troopers found his snowmobile. The vehicle was several miles away from the cabin at Sheep Creek and had been covered with several feet of snow. There was no sign of Chucky and no footprints in the snow, and the fact that there were no tracks or footprints deeply puzzled investigators. So where was Chucky? He was dressed appropriately for the weather, but had no food or water with him and no GPS personal locator device. Despite a wide-scale search that was eventually called off due to bad weather, no sign of Chucky has ever been found. With no tracks or footprints to suggest where he may have been headed, his family has since had him declared deceased in absentia. His family are desperate to find out what happened to Chucky and are appealing to anyone with information to please come forward. Charles Chucky Edwin Palmer is described as a white male with brown hair, blue eyes, standing approximately 5'11" tall and weighing about 150 pounds. He was last seen wearing a black Gore-Tex jacket and vest, black snow pants, black boots, and a black snowboarding helmet. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact Melia Miller of the Alaska State Troopers at 907-269-5511 and reference case number 100029713. Number 4. Timothy Vern Perryman. In late 2002, Timothy Vern Perryman's world fell down around him after he lost his job as a financial analyst. Timothy had obtained his degree in business administration years earlier and had worked incredibly hard to establish his career. By early 2004, however, the shock and depression of losing his job were in full swing. For now, the 53-year-old and the lives of the Perrymans would be further turned upside down on one March day. March 28, 2004, Timothy left his home at around 2 p.m. on the 29,000 block of Garden Oak Court apartment in Agoura Hills, California. That day, he and his wife got into an argument, and it's unclear whether Timothy left during the argument or after. His neighbors recalled seeing him walking briskly south along Daylight Drive, and that was the last time he was ever seen. When he failed to return home later that day, his wife reported him missing to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. The concern for Timothy's welfare grew as time went by, with his family and authorities fearing that he may have harmed himself. Reports indicate that he took his driver's license and some photographs when he left the house, leaving behind his Social Security card, automobile, medicine, phone, credit cards, and cash. Timothy's son, Steve, later told the LA Times he's a very methodical man who thinks things through clearly before doing them. It's pretty scary. Timothy had served as a Boy Scout leader for over 18 years, which meant he was adept at surviving in the great outdoors. He had many hunting, hiking, and survival skills up his sleeve, and his son believes that he likely headed to the Santa Monica Mountains to go for a hike. Timothy enjoyed hiking, and his son theorized that his father went to the mountains to take such a hike to clear his mind. Multiple searches have been conducted, however, but no sign of Timothy has ever been found. His family does not believe that he would abandon them, and his wife confirmed that the argument that day was only minor. Timothy Perryman is still missing, and his family is desperate to find out what happened to him. Timothy was last seen on March 28, 2004 at around 2 p.m. as described as a white male with brown hair, hazel eyes, standing 5 foot 9 inches tall and weighing 185 pounds. Timothy has scars from skin grafts on the side of his nose and behind his left ear, and a red and purple port wine birthmark on the left side of his face from his eyebrow to his upper lip, and he also wears prescription glasses. He depends on medication to manage his conditions, and at the time of his disappearance was suffering from chronic heart, urinary tract, and kidney problems. According to the Charlie Project, his kidneys were infected and he was undergoing tests to see if he was suffering from prostate cancer. Without his medication, Timothy could become seriously ill or even die. He may have also been depressed at the time of his disappearance. Timothy was last seen wearing a blue and white striped long-sleeve polo Oxford dress shirt, blue jeans, white tennis shoes, and a gold Seiko watch. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Detective Tamar Abram of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department at 323-890-5500 and reference case 04-018-9022. Number 3, Shannon Joy Shell. 34-year-old Shannon Joy Shell was determined to hike the Tanque Verde Ridge Trail to Manning Camp in Saguaro National Monument East in Arizona. She had previously tried to hike this rugged terrain but had failed and had her sights set on finishing what she started. The trail was over 32 miles long and covered some rough and rugged terrain, but Sharon was an experienced hiker and knew that she would be able to push through her limit and make it. On October 12, 1994, Shannon parked her Camaro at the trailhead, grabbed her hiking bag, which contained water bottles, snacks, clothes, cigarettes, lip gloss, and some cough drops, and headed out on her way. At the time of the hike, Shannon was recovering from the flu, and despite the advice of those around her, she decided to push through the pain and discomfort. Unfortunately, Shannon never made it to Manning Camp, and when she failed to return to her parents' home in Tucson, Arizona, she was reported missing to the Pima County Sheriff's Office. The Pima County Sheriff's Office and search and rescue crews headed out into the Saguaro National Monument East in search of Shannon, but they failed to find her. All they found was a fire ring 6 miles from the trailhead and a few footprints. Investigators were never able to confirm whether this fire or footprints belonged to Shannon. This was the only pieces of evidence they found in their search, and after failing to find her, the search was eventually called off. In 2014, Bob Love, Chief Ranger of Saguaro National Park at the time, spoke to Tucson.com telling them her, Shannon's, intent was to go to Manning Camp, which is a significant hike. It's very steep terrain. The 15 miles of trail to Manning Camp would have been a challenge for even experienced hikers. Shannon wouldn't have been able to do the round trip in one day. Dehydration and exposure are risks even in the cooler months, including October. Hikers can underestimate the amount of water they need and the extra clothing they should carry when the weather is temperate. Since October, Shannon's family have been desperately searching for her, and as of yet, there is no sign of her. Shannon Joy Shell is described as a white female with brown hair, hazel eyes, standing 4 foot 9 inches tall and weighing approximately 85 pounds. Shannon was recovering from the flu at the time of her disappearance and also suffers from bronchitis. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact David Sedlak of the Pima County Sheriff's Office at 520-351-4600 and reference case number 941-013-016. Number 2, Teresa Schmidt. 53-year-old Teresa Schmidt was last seen on September 6, 2002, near the Lost Valley Guest Ranch, which, according to their website, is surrounded by the Rocky Mountains. Teresa was visiting the ranch with her husband, and on September 6, 2002, she decided to go on a day hike while her husband attended a conference. Witnesses recall seeing Teresa at around 3 p.m. that day on a trail that leads to Rocky Overlook east of the Guest Ranch. Teresa and her husband had traveled from Avon, Indiana to Jefferson County, Colorado, so that Mr. Schmidt could attend a medical conference. When he returned to the Guest Ranch after the conference, he found no sign of his wife and immediately reported her missing. There is a lack of information in Teresa's case, and it's reported by the Charlie Project that while she was reported missing on the evening of September 6, 2002, the search for her did not commence until 2 a.m. on September 7, 2002. Over the coming days, the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, search and rescue personnel, scent dogs, and volunteers scoured the area surrounding the Lost Valley Guest Ranch, but ultimately failed to find any sign of Teresa. Since September 2002, Teresa's case has been cold, and it's believed she likely got lost while hiking. 2 sets of her footprints were found near Cheeseman Overlook on each side of the ridge, but nothing else was ever found. Her family are still seeking answers and closure and are appealing for anyone with any information to please come forward. Teresa Schmidt is described as a white female with blonde hair, brown eyes, standing 5 foot 5 inches tall and weighing 125 pounds. She was last seen wearing a turquoise windbreaker, a light-colored t-shirt, stone-washed jeans, and a black fanny pack. She was also carrying a backpack which contained a heavier jacket and 2 bottles of water. Anyone with any information is asked to please contact Jennifer Jones of the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office at 303-271-5195 and reference case number 02-22973. And number 1, Robert Dwayne Scott. 63-year-old Robert Dwayne Scott was last seen in Grand Junction, Colorado on July 30, 2002. According to authorities, Robert took a 9mm handgun with him and left behind a note that outlined his intentions to harm himself. Once this note was discovered, Robert's disappearance was reported to the Mesa County Sheriff's Office, who launched an official investigation. Shortly after Robert disappeared, his white 1995 Chevrolet pickup truck was found abandoned at the Flat Tops Wilderness area in Garfield County, Colorado. There was no sign of Robert, and the case went cold until August 16, 2002, when the Post-Independent reported that searchers had found his black backpack along the short trail between Jet Lake and the trailhead. According to reports, the only thing missing from the bag was a float tube, and Robert's family confirmed that he enjoyed fishing and hunting in that area. Multiple agencies joined in the search for Robert, with the Post-Independent reporting that agencies from Garfield County, Mesa County, Delta County, Crested Butte, Eagle County, Aspen, and Grand County assisted in the search. These teams brought helicopters, dog units, ground searchers, and even cavers to help find Robert. However, no sign of him was ever detected. Robert Dwayne Scott is considered endangered missing, and his family are desperate for closure. Robert was described as a white male with blonde, strawberry blonde hair, blue eyes, standing 6 foot tall and weighing 160 pounds. Anyone with any information is asked to contact Danny Norris of the Mesa County Sheriff's Office at 970-244-3500 and reference case 02L6537. And remember, if you or someone you know is having difficulty and are considering harming yourself, reach out. You can dial 988 or contact your local mental health center or the authorities. There are people out there that care about you and that are willing to help. Well, friends, there you have it. What do you think of these national park disappearances? I look forward to reading your comments, but please keep it friendly and respectful. Till we meet again, be good to yourselves and each other. Stay safe out there. As for me, I'll see you a little further on down the trail. I'm Steve Stockton, and I'll talk to you next time. And please tell your animals I said hi.